Welcome to another edition of the Paranormal Zone. I'm your co-host, Tom Spitalere. Hope all is well with everybody. Hope things are going well tonight. The Paranormal Zone is set up so we can talk about different things that happen in the paranormal, from cryptids to Bigfoot to things that go bump into the night to UFOs, UAPs. Today, though, we're going to be discussing a few different things. One is, for anybody who's been messaging us about the Hilldale Cemetery ghost hunts, and one of the most haunted cemeteries in New England, Hilldale Cemetery, they are coming back. Please keep an eye on our Facebook page, Essex County Ghost Project. We'll let you know real soon. We're working on a couple big things, including the first we go watch the skies for UFOs. So we're getting ready for the first one on that one. So we got a lot going on. Private cases are flying off the wall right now. We've had, I'm so packed right now with private cases. If there's any good paranormal teams out there that want to reach out to me at 978-376-2807, give me a shout. I'm more than happy. Could use some extra help on these. Got one that's a very nasty one, and a few Caspers and one cleansing one. So got a lot going on, but we're up to the test in this one. This is something that Essex County was built on. We'll probably be hitting 160, 170 events again this year. So that's all good news, folks. But tonight, I know it's that time of year again where you go looking, you're looking for ghosts too, but sometimes you go looking for old family members. You're doing genealogy, you like walking through a cool old cemetery. But do you even know what you're looking at when you walk through these old New England cemeteries or graveyards? So we're going to look into some of that today, and then the proper procedures of what to do and what not to do in a graveyard. All right? Believe it or not, there is a study in graveyards. And anyone that does paranormal investigation work that works out of graveyards, even checks them out on occasion, you fall into this category too. So keep an eye out, listen tonight, and you will figure out what's going on in these old graveyards. So you ever walk through one, first of all, you gotta watch out for gopher holes and stuff like that, down trees. You don't want to be kicking stones even by accident. Watch where you put your feet, especially if you're in an old one that's not well taken care of, that's out in the middle of nowhere, in the woods, in a grassy field that possibly is on somebody's private property. Just to give you the heads up, if you live in the New England Seacoast, you're going to see a lot of graveyards. Kittery Point, Maine has over 152 graveyards. Rhode Island, my friends in Rhode Island, Carl Johnson and Elise Gilmanton, they work real hard on uncovering and fixing old up graveyards and bringing them back to life. Rhode Island, the island of Refugio, is the national capital for cemeteries in New England. There are more cemeteries per capita in Rhode Island than there are anywhere else, or by the mile. So what are cemeteries? Cemeteries are, or burial grounds they started with. They're a place where after you pass, they go dig a grave, they put you in, and then the goats would feed the fields. I mean, there wasn't a lot going on in the early colonial times. But as we started, moving forward, the war years, then in the 1800s, you had the religious revitalization of America, and that's when we took the idea of death, more than just throwing a hole in the ground and forgetting about. That's where these fancy looking, especially had money gravestones came from, that you see in any graveyard in America across the plains today. So you have those gravestones that are out there to show the life, and then it was a different way of looking at things. Now, there is actually a study for this. It's called iconography. The study of imaging and symbolisms of what is on the headstone, and we're going to get to some of this stuff. Gravestones are a prime example of Eidotechnique artifacts, deep concern with death and survival for all souls, which is the center of all religions. So when you die, no matter what religion you are, you all believe there's a soul there. And where the soul goes, differences in your beliefs, and I respect everybody's beliefs. So, a cemetery, an area set aside for the continuing graves or funeral services, especially not in a churchyard. These burial grounds are just cemeteries, usually without churches. A graveyard is a burial ground, especially besides a church, usually with the church included, so you actually have the church. So if you could afford it, a British stone would be sent over in colonial times, and your name would be carved on it, and some things would be carved, and then you'd be buried. If you were poor, you might have been able to have somebody chip your initials in a rock, so families then down the road could find you. Or they would just put a stone over it, or you were buried in the barn, or you could have been buried under the tree 3 feet from the barn, under the maple tree, which by now, if you were buried in the 1800s, you'd be no one left to find you. So we actually have a lot of gravestone carvers in the New England area, from Joseph Lane to J. Bunker, T.G.E. Eastman, John Hartstone, Robert McCulkin Jr., John McCulkin, and Joseph McCulkin. So those are some of the famous gravestone artists that came out of the Essex County area, Massachusetts. The Eastern gravestone carvers. Those are the ones we're going to be, some of the other ones we'll be maybe looking at are Joseph Lane, J. Parker, Eastman, and T.C. So the first one who was big in New England was John Hartson, 1650 to 1738. Early 20th settled the area in Massachusetts. John was also in service of King Philip's War, which was the first part of the French Indian War, as a lieutenant of the militia. In the early 1700s, he began his carving out simple gravestones at the age of 50. His carvings were clear, fluid, finished, simple, genuine design, that the side borders were also designed with in different settings on the head part of the headstone. If you look forward, so there's a face there that was created, and a dissident charity. So something in this one particular stone was interesting. So what I'm saying here is they carved out this stone, and then in comes what we call Western religion today. They're giving everybody, their religious, and the people don't like it because they don't have their phone, their phones, their radios, and so it's hard for them to listen if they had something back then or anything back then. Radios didn't come in until the 1900s, so they would have these lunettes Now, with that said, so in the 1700s, there was an attack in this region, and a couple of people lay dead, and they ended up moving to the Byfield area. So in New Hampshire, John Hartshorne has at least 2 stones still standing: Hampton 1, Hampton Falls 1, Greenland 1, Portsmouth 2. All right. So the next one is Robert McCulkin. Robert was moved to Bradford, settled in the Kimball's pasture in Bradford, still past of the Raleigh, still part of Raleigh at that time. Bradford was buried on the old Bradford burial ground. 1717, McCulkin replaced the hintstone as a main carver in Haverhill. He eliminated the curved lunas on the lunette used by some connected lives in full press. Skull was like a winged carpet. 1725 towards they started loosening over the way people could wear their clothes. Robert McCulkin Jr., 1688 to 1756, 1727, at the request of his brother and him, they went down to Haverhill and helped rebuild the downtown to what it is today. They made it fireproof, made it able to get their cars and get out. Because, you had to be safe. Even in the fire, you had to make it safe for people. So, and in 1725, he turned the business over to his son. 1727, the son's now officially in business. John spending designers on these insiders craved the inside liners. 1734 to 36, he used the hall as a molding point for the people who didn't believe in what was going on out there as things started wearing up, wampering up and everything else by 1700s. John McCulkin, 1690, 1730. Robert, the younger brother, he was also 1690, born in Bradford, and he has tried, he tried never to deceive with Elaine. Swirls have, this has been going on for a while. Everybody knew that they were in love, but no one wanted to talk about it. And then there's Joseph McCulkin, 1704 to 1768. Robust, he was a junior. Robust younger brother of the railroad guy who was in charge. He was also an innkeeper, and at the age of 15, he saw what was to believe. What am I saying here? Oh, at the age of 15, he was. His name was the last generation. 1737, he was on his way, and then so these McCulkin stones, if you look at them, are very beautiful. They have different lunettes to them. So the death heads, those are those ghostly figures, spirits with the skull, are roughly 1600 to 1720. The cherub is 1720 to 1768. William, the cherubs were 1720 to 1760, and then the Willow and Urns were 1760 to 1779, 1790 to 99, and 1820 to 1830. So that's the time that they were around. And if you look at an old gravestone, the bend at the top is a Lynette, where the people's names are hard to read is their Instagram, and then you had the side panels, and they would fit everything in just perfect so it doesn't look like it's left behind. Parts of the gravestone. So the lunette is at the top of the gravestone. Yes. Alright. So the lunette's at the top of the gravestone. It's usually something a little fancy. Got the skull, crossbones, maybe the hand pointing to God, or any one of the major lunettes that are out there, lunettes. The next one I'm going to show you is written in well, the written in script. Well, we're going to skip that one. The next thing we want to look at is the death's head, 1680 to 1720. So that's going to be located, if you're looking at a cemetery, that's going to be located in like the late 16, early 1700s. So he had to get this great divide back, and that's what started the civil, that's 1730. That started a little later than that. But it was real hard for him to get back the camaraderie that was needed. The cherub, 1720 to 1760. This is the Great Awakening of Religious Revitalization movement in 1720 to 1760. Encouraged the move, personnel connective between this life and the next. That's the believers. Thought that control of life would gather them. And then, so the head's in the middle and the wings spread out. So if you can picture that, that's a cherub. The willow and urn, that came around in the 1850s with late 20s, early 30s, but by the 50s with the religious revitalization of America, it really started. The wall was over. Willow appeared in 1790s from a renewal of popular throughout the 1870s and beyond. Bonding images that his wife, sorry about that, folks. So the willow and urn the images go from ancient Greece design, often used for shields, urns, scrolls, the willow tree, and the bell faces instead of a different religious idea. This change introduced a decline in the influence of religion in shaping the public's videos about death. The urn and willow design was not unique to gravestones, but also it appeared in the collection, furniture, and other circumstances of the time. All right, so when you're going through these cemeteries, okay, and no matter where you're going, whether it's somewhere here in the Merrimack Valley or beyond, make sure you follow a little etiquette. What you bring in, please bring out. respect the graveyard or on the family. Do not leave. Do not. Do not like stamp your foot on gravestones. Report anything you see odd to the cemetery. And then, obviously we got recycling, and you want to try to protect those gravestones at whatever cost you can. So remember earlier I was talking about different gravestones you're going to see, and we went over a few of them. Okay. So the willow tree and urn was 1777, and then through 1797, but it had a break in 1707, and they moved to East Broadway. So if you see some of these stones or definitions, you want to know what they are, there's a whole line of definitions of what those iconography stones look like. You pass one on the way in, the arches and the ships, hope or significant in professionalism. Arches, victory or halt. So that's another good one. Bugles is usually for military. The cross is Catholic. The hand pointing to God, meaning they're religious. The hand pointing down to God means they don't have much religion. You always have to worry about Father Time, mortality, and the Grim Reaper starts sneaking up on you. They start after the age of 50. Full house, that would be, good question. Then we got handshakes, farewell to the earthly existence. So that's handshake. So you got handshakes pointing to God. You have forsythia bushes all over the place in these cemeteries. So that's another thing you're looking at. What is, what isn't, and what's going on. Thistles usually mean remembrance. Suns usually come out and say, the resurrection is coming. So that's just some of the stuff we use and go over. Some of the other stuff, cherub, it's an angel-like face with human features and often carried with wings. So that's always fun if you ever get a chance to check that out. But I would say right now, the most important thing you can do for an old graveyard is show respect when you come in. All right, that's the first one. Just pull out some other notes here. As we flip through, trying to make sure my notes are right where they're supposed to be. All right. So, respect the graveyard, don't do any digging. Report suspicious characters and even animals. And some of the stuff we were looking at earlier will continue. The chore web, which is angelic. The cross swords, which is high-ranking military personnel, dots and mortality, sorry. Let's see. Father Time is mortality, the Grim Reaper's on your back door. Full-blown rose, the form of life. Tombs, mortality. Torch inverted. Torch inverted, yes. Life existence. Thistles. We used to think of them prickly hurt. They're going to be no more. Then now, thistles are meaning remembrance. So if you see thistles carved in on a stone or in an open spot where the sun is beating down on it regularly, that's an open stone. Some of the other terminology we deal with, anyone know what a cherub is? An angle-like face in human features, including wings and sharp-looking teeth. That's another one of those interesting different definitions I pulled out. So with that said, when you go walking through a graveyard, please watch what you do, respect the elderly, respect the dead, and respect everybody. Because one of these days we'll all be there. I'll be right next to you. So I'm heading there right now again. I hope everybody out there in Radio Land has a great week. We have something planned for next week. I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. I'll see you in the paranormal. I'm heading to my crib. Good night, everybody.